Today's meeting of the Environmental Advisory Board is called to order on July 17th. Welcome, everyone. The Environmental Advisory Board consists of 5 members who are appointed by the City Council. We serve voluntarily. The objective of the board is to provide citizen insight to the City Council. Agendas of today's meeting are on the wall at the entrance to the chamber here in the main library. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure a complete record of the board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and just state your name for the clerk, thank you. And will the board members and staff please introduce themselves?
Ashley Pimley.
Mark Wright.
Jared Leone.
John Thomas.
Candace Gardner.
Sarah Kessler, Environmental Specialist in the Engineering Department.
Thank you very much. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of the board's last meeting. And we have 2 to approve. May I have so do we need 2 motions or can we approve them? Okay.
Just one motion.
May I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Make a motion.
Oh, I hear a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. And we'll vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
All approve. Is there? We'll move on to citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Is there anyone to speak to items not on the agenda? Please step to the podium, state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak on the item that is not on the agenda. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Glenna Wentworth. I live in Clearwater, Morningside. You want the address?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm here to talk about single-use plastics and styrofoam. I'm thinking that, this body's done a lot of work on that, and it may be time for us to be considering vendor contracts, changing vendor contracts for city events to eliminate single-use plastics and styrofoam from those events. It's summertime now. We have a sustainability coordinator, and she may be, this is probably on her radar already, but the city has, in theory, agreed to this, and I think it's time to, I don't know what this body could do. I'm not sure what, what actions need to be taken at this time to start that process, but I just wanted to put that out there for your consideration.
No, thank you. Does anyone have anything to add to?
Do you have any vendors in mind?
Any vendor who wants to be at a city event, whether it's Blast Friday, all the events in Coachman Park, all the events on the beach. Here, we've got all those, probably planning's already been in place. But I know that, and I'm thinking that it's just for every city event, that it just be written into the contract that those vendors cannot use single-use plastics or styrofoam. So, and we've talked about this before with Ocean Allies, and they've just said, hey, they just buy the other stuff to bring to our events. And I don't think that this is going to be new to most vendors, because there are other cities in Pinellas that already have these policies in place.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not breaking new ground. I think there are other places that are doing this already,
Florida,
other
Pete.
cities. We're lucky today that we have our sustainability coordinator here. I don't know if she's going to mention this or bring this up during her presentation, or if she wants to address this now, or if that's out of, we'll bring it up during her presentation, and then we can talk
Okay.
about it at that point.
Great.
Is there anything else that you wanted to? I think you may have. That's it.
Not at the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Thank
Glenna.
you.
Is there anyone else to speak on items not on the agenda? Please step forward, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Henkel. I'm pretty much a lifelong resident of Clearwater. Henkel. And I'm here to speak about sustainability and LEED certification, and specific reference to the Imagine Clearwater plan for the downtown waterfront. Basically, I'd like the city to go beyond best practices and LEED certification for this project. There is no reason we can't use sustainable materials, building or otherwise. Some other examples include on-site waste collection and recycling, There are many parks that I've played in and raised my son here, and you know, so many people want to do the right thing and drop a recycling can or whatever, and there are very few chances to do that, fewer than you might think. So green roofing is available, permeable surfaces for stormwater runoff, especially important near the coast. On-site renewable energy technology is widely available for solar, wind, even tidal. Waterless urinals, CO2 monitors. We can create a pesticide-free and herbicide-free environment. It's a big park that would make it not only family-friendly, but fish-friendly as well. The use of native plants, xeriscaping has been a widely practiced, you know, in Florida and Pinellas County. Drought-tolerant edibles. In the plan, there's a garden. It doesn't say anything specifically about a community garden. So, a ban on single-use plastics as well. Water refill stations. These are just some of the examples that are available. Some of the possibilities. The point is we can go beyond the usual in our planning and imagine Clearwater's sustainable future in the Imagine Clearwater plan and make it a reality for tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Michael. Yeah, I'm going to just speak. I believe that there's still a lot of planning to go with Imagine Clearwater, so I hope that the people that are doing planning hear these comments and move forward with some of those ideas. Thank you. Anyone else to speak on items not on the agenda? Please come forward, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Jared. I'm Kathleen Beckman, Clearwater resident. I'm going to kind of piggyback off Michael's statement about LEED, but with a more financial angle to it. So I'm here to advocate for requiring LEED certification requirements in any RFP developed from our city. There is a compelling financial component to advocate for green building on our city properties. According to the federal government agency, GSA, Government Services Agency, and this was in 2001, so it's a little bit dated, so you can take the numbers and probably increase them. LEED buildings use 25% less energy than non-LEED buildings, and there is a 19% reduction in operational cost in LEED buildings compared to non-LEED buildings. So that was in 2011, and so 8 years later, with all the technological advances, I am sure that those savings are even more. The city should spend money upfront on energy efficiencies and green building to save residents money long-term. So these decisions, this is about fiscal responsibility and spending taxpayers' dollars wisely. The results of implementing energy efficiencies are immediate and measurable. So this isn't theory, this is proven. The city of Seminole took money they received from Penny for Pinellas and purchased solar for 2 of their city buildings. One building is now net zero, meaning they don't pay for electricity at all. So their investment from Penny for Pinellas is actually paying off year after year. They have multiplied the value of their share of that Penny for Pinellas. Another example is the new St. Pete Police Station. St. Pete put 1,450 solar panels on their newly constructed police station. That's this year. It now powers the energy needs of that building. Tampa has an ordinance that requires all new municipal buildings over 5,000 square feet of air-conditioned space to earn a minimum of LEED Silver certification, while also offering developers of commercial and multifamily residential buildings a 20 to 80% rebate on building permit fees, depending on the level of LEED certification that they engage in. This April, the city of St. Pete adopted an ordinance which requires, and this is pertinent to us, city-owned buildings over 5,000 square feet, which are either being substantially modified or are being newly constructed, to achieve a rating of LEED Gold from the U.S. Green Builders Council. So that's what I would advocate for Imagine Clearwater buildings. Clearwater is in the early stages of having a consultant develop language for the RFP for Imagine Clearwater. It is imperative that this RFP articulate that all buildings meet LEED certification requirements. Making fiscally responsible decisions should be a priority for our city council. I am asking you to encourage them to do so with an added benefit of reducing our carbon footprint. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. And not to pass the buck again to Sheridan on this, but I am curious if Greenprint addresses this and if her presentation may bring up this aspect. And we'll, I guess, find out about that during her presentation a little bit later in the meeting. Is there anyone else to speak on items not on the agenda? Please step forward and state your name, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
So Brian Beckman, Clearwater resident. Just to add on just a little bit more to what Kathleen was saying. So we met with Michael Delk this morning to review with him what the plans look like, what stages in the RFP process. So it is a great time to take advantage of having these kind of lead requirements incorporated in what is being asked of the consultants to include in their planning. One of the things that in part, I guess, surprised me that I wanted to reinforce, so all these examples that Kathleen was saying, realize the city of Clearwater, from what Michael Delk told me, has 0 buildings that have been built to that standard. Now, I don't know that he knows all that in detail, but that's what he told us in that meeting, that no buildings have been built to that requirement so far in Clearwater. So this is a new opportunity for Clearwater. It's not something, don't assume, please, that this is something the city has already been thinking about and ready to act on or has acted on in some way. This is something that has not been, well, it might have been thought about, has not been acted on at this point, and this is a prime opportunity to start doing that. And I'll reinforce that while a lot of the building consultants might consider this, it is not something that a lot of these architects in particular are experts at automatically incorporating. The example that I'll cite back from, while solar is fantastic on the St. Pete police station, basically the architects did not have much experience on solar when they brought their experience to the table. And so it is something still that needs to be reinforced and really requested to have these kinds of things incorporated. It doesn't just happen just naturally. These things have to be thought of ahead of time and requested and followed up on. So I wanted to reinforce those points, that it's not just something that just naturally happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Is there anyone else here to speak on items not on the agenda? Can we have Glenda's?
Can I have 3 minutes? No?
Sorry.
You use like 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes.
A minute.
1 minute?
Okay.
All right. I mean, it's 2
We'll
minutes.
allow it.
I have no
All right, thank you.
idea. So. Glenda Wentworth, Clearwater. Yeah, as you know, I'm the Sierra Club has asked me to liaison with this body, and Sierra Club has a commitment in all their environmental efforts to diversity, inclusion, and justice. What they're suggesting in all of our efforts in new development is that they're looking into what we call community benefit agreements. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's been around about 15 years. But the idea of a community benefit agreement is that any development on city property take into consideration the concerns and needs of the surrounding community, so that they will be included in, and that they will achieve also economic development, that their social needs will be taken into consideration, and that they'll be taken into consideration environmentally too. So there are some communities in Florida that are looking into community benefit agreements, and I'm going to get a hold of a copy of one and send it to you all.
Thank you very much. All right. Is there anyone else here to speak on items not on the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to our next item, new business, item 4.1, presentation about cleanups and environmental programs. You're up, Felicia.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me go ahead and get this. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Felicia Sabartinelli. If you need me to spell it, I can. It's super. I am brand new to the city. I've been in my position for less than 2 months. I manage our volunteer program, and I also manage Moccasin Lake Nature Park and Lake Chautauqua. So today I'm going to do my best to explain to you our programs, and if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer. All right. So I want to talk to you today about our volunteer program. We have a variety of areas that are very specific to beautification and cleanups. And I just want you guys to know that the Parks and Rec Department is dedicated to the beautification of its city parks, streets, trails, beaches, and waterways. It is with the help of our outstanding staff and volunteers that we continue to make Clearwater bright and beautiful from bay to beach. I have some of our 2017-2018 statistics. So within our volunteer program and our beautification and cleanups, we have our beautification projects. So those are projects that may be removing weeds, it could be building a community garden, it could be doing a cleanup event, so at the park, or what we just saw at Clearwater Beach on July 5th for the post-holiday. We have our Greenies group. Our Greenies volunteer group is a group of volunteers that kayak in a different waterway within the city of Clearwater every month, and they clean that waterway. And then we also have our adoptive programs, which I'll talk about. But between 2017 and 2018, we had over 1,000 volunteer hours that were specifically dedicated to those three areas. Again, the beautification and cleanups. So past projects that we have done have been our beach cleanups. We're working on doing more dive cleanups, which I'll talk to you about here in a second. Planting, weeding, taking out invasive plant removal, park and pedestrian cleanup, graffiti removal, mulching, etc. Another area that I briefly mentioned was our Greenies. So again, those Greenies groups are going out every month, and they're in those different waterways. Some of our past locations have been at Lake Bellevue, Glen Oaks Park, Cliff Stevenson Park, Memorial Causeway, Ross Norton, and etc. Our adoptive programs, we have 4 different adoptive programs within the volunteer program. So these are areas that the community, so either as a group, a corporate group, it could be a neighborhood association can come together saying that they're going to designate a certain area that they want to help manage and take care of. So we have our adoptive trail, our adoptive park, our adoptive street, and our adoptive waterway. Our adoptive waterway is something that's been being slowly developed in the last year, so it's something that I'm right now kind of trying to tackle on and learn more about. But what happens with these programs is, say we have an association that reaches out to us and says, hey, we have a park in our neighborhood that we would love to adopt. What do we do? They would contact us. We would have them sign a contract that would basically say that your group has promised that for 4 times a year, you will clean up this park. We supply all the materials, the gloves, the trash bags. We help remove the trash. And that they just keep us updated on a report of what they're actually doing so we can monitor what needs to be done in that area. They also get a sign that will say, this group has adopted this park, and we put it up in that area. So they do have to do that for a 2-year period, so that's what's really important. And that really helps with our staff because of our limited time and resources to really make sure that those parks, those trails, and those waterways are really getting the attention that they need and that our community can continue to enjoy them. We mentioned this already, so we do supply all the supplies, the sign, collateral, and material. A few things that are on my radar right now with our department. I've been currently talking to our storm manager about water goats. So this is something that we are actually looking into having some of our adopted waterway groups that they can have. Depending on the specific waterway, if a water goat can be placed, we're trying to figure out what the details of that would be, where we can actually install one and that group would then clean up that water goat area between 4 to 6 times a year for a 2-year period. Starting in 2013, I believe, was the first dive cleanup that was done off of Pier 60. We are in talks right now with 2 different groups to do our next dive cleanup here in September. But this is another area that we're hoping to kind of push a little bit more and to make sure we're cleaning out the water near Pier 60, especially now that we're the #1 beach in the U.S., so a little more traffic, a little more fun. So those are a few things that we are working on. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, yes, I do.
Yes.
One of the things that always gets me about this sort of thing is that focused on recovering from trash and all that. And I love these things. My disc golf club, we adopted Coachman Park. But what never stops is the trash occurring.
Yes.
So what I like to ask you is, what are you guys doing to prevent trash
You
in
know,
the first place?
funny that you mentioned that. That is actually something I talked in a meeting with someone about yesterday. I don't think so much, we push the agenda of like picking up the trash and removing the trash and debris for one reason or another. But I think part of what we have to work on is the education with the community, to educate the public about why it's important that we learn how to pick up our trash and where to put it, and how to recycle. Because I'm so new and still building relationships, I've been able to have a few conversations with Sheridan, and I look forward to kind of tackling that, because I agree. I think that we need to do more about the education of the community and the importance of it. So maybe then one day we really don't need a cleanup because we're all doing our due diligence. Wouldn't that be great?
Who's throwing tires off of Pier 60?
This is not Pier 60.
Oh,
this
okay.
is another local
All right,
one.
all right.
But you would be surprised, but they were probably going to pull out of the water.
Yeah, we get them a lot out on Sand Key. You have cut in half because of the traps that they are used to weight down.
Okay.
What sort of fines has the city levied against people? Or maybe give me a rough, maybe I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. Can you give me maybe a rough idea of maybe some fines that the city has levied against people that throw trash? Is this a regular thing? Is this that's not something I really hear about.
Well, Mr. Wright, I've only been here less than 2 months, so unfortunately I don't know what that answer would be, but I would be more than happy to go back to my superior and see if I can find some answers for you. But
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I actually did some searching on that recently on the city's website, and I couldn't find anything regarding any of that.
yeah, I don't know. That's a
I don't even know what the fines are for some of the stuff, and it's shocking. Whenever I do a cleanup, the breadth of trash you get and the amount is always amazing to me. And it's not always people. A lot of times, and I think when I talk about prevention, the trash cans are terrible in the park that I go to. Most of them, the lids don't work, or they're older, and things like that. And I think wind becomes a factor. I think water flow becomes a factor, moving trash around. And I just like to see the city do more to prevent it rather than try to constantly be recovering from it.
One thing I can say that I was really impressed by, because I'm new to Florida, that I was very impressed that the city has a parks department that is cleaning up the beach every day of the week, which is very rare because a lot of beach municipalities don't have that. So I think that we have a really great asset there, and then with our cleanup programs, and we know that there's going to be more work to be done, but I think we're definitely on the right track of moving forward. My hope is to, try to catch up as much as possible, and then, be able to hear this feedback and take it back and figure out what we need to do to then take it up another level. Do you guys have any other questions? That was really quick because I didn't know how much time I had, so.
I was very encouraged about the dive program. I didn't know that we had that, and I know how much debris comes up on the beach when we have a good front coming through with strong winds and waves, and it's amazing what you do find.
Yeah, they've been since 2013, but my hope is that we'll be able to, after this one in September, I'd like to see them done maybe every quarter, if not more. I think it would be really great.
That would be a good idea.
A really great program for us. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions
I think
or
the
comments?
trash containers are probably the biggest problem.
I say it every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know who deals with that one, but I'll write it down.
Yeah, I'll say to that point, I've noticed at some parks that the trash containers have changed, that there are some different ones, so I don't know if there's an effort across the board to change them out, and there's some places that it's been done and some that haven't, but I've noticed that some have been changed in some places.
Of course, the complete lack of recycling containers at most of the parks too.
Oh, yeah.
There is that.
Yeah. Anyone else have any other? I was going to ask, With, you mentioned the hours that everyone has worked and volunteered to remove all of this trash. You didn't mention, is there a number of tons or pounds of trash that have been removed during these efforts?
You know, I don't have that on me. I don't know, to be quite honest with you, if I have a total number from the year. I'm sure we could have it because we have reports that are turned in. That's something that I would like to do every year to show what we're doing. I can tell you that with our last Clearwater Beach cleanup, our post-holiday on July 5th, our group in about an hour and a half picked up over, I think, 250 pounds of trash on Clearwater Beach.
And then to piggyback on that, some of the more interesting items, I think those are always, like, that's what people are always interested in.
Yeah.
Like 26 shopping carts were removed.
Yeah, and
or
how many?
whatever it
I
is.
definitely
Those
would
are
like
the
to make
things
some more
that are really
infographics for our
eye-catching.
department based on what we're doing, because I
Yeah.
agree. I think sometimes, you know, I want to know. I'm
The
new,
hours
and
are
I'm like,
great.
what are we doing?
Yeah, it's great to know how many hours, but then it's very substantial to say, oh, well,
Yeah.
all these shopping carts or tires or bicycles or whatever it is that were removed.
And I think the
That's a
great
good thing
thing
to
I'd
know.
love to say, the final thing, you know, I am fairly new, so I am trying to catch up as much as possible, but I want you to know that this is something that I'm very passionate about. I come from Colorado, so I'm very much about taking care of our environment and making sure, like, you know, I love what Sheridan is doing with the sustainability, so it's something that I'm very interested in making sure that we're also doing in every way that we can. So just want you guys to know that.
And you also mentioned the Adopt a Waterway program
Yes.
is very new, and there's water goat placement. Is there a number of water goats you have available, or how does that
No,
work
currently there are 4 water goats
Okay.
within the city of Clearwater that we take care of. There's one at Moccasin Lake Nature Park. There are 2 at, I just had this meeting yesterday, there are 2 at Ross Norton, I believe. One, do you know what the other? Do you know the other 2 are? No, there are 2 others around. So the water goats are such a specific system because they can't just go into any waterway. We have to make sure that there is a pipe that is near the surface of the water, not deep down. It needs to be in a place where then we could actually clean up that area safely. It needs to be put in a place where the flow of water isn't moving so fast that it just keeps kicking more trash out. But I believe that we're working toward a place where if we need one, and we have a group that will be dedicated to helping us maintain that for that 4 times a year, I don't think it'd be a problem for us to have one. I think we have the resources to do that.
And have you identified other waterways that these would work in,
You know, I know that there is a list of places where we could potentially have them, and now it's just a matter of really assessing what we have, what's really needed, and what can we actually do and when.
Okay.
But it seems to be that everyone's, you know, people I've talked to, the department, we're on board with moving forward, trying to figure out those pieces so we can go down that lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the audience? Thank you very much. All right, thank you. We'll move on to our next item. Presentation about sustainability initiatives and green print. Sheridan?
Hi, Sheridan Boyle, Sustainability Coordinator for the city. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Just some of the public comments already are very important to hear. I wanted to make 2 notes before I get into the presentation. One, I had the pleasure of touring Moccasin Lake Park with Felicia last Friday, and it's beautiful. So for anyone that has yet to go, especially since the recent renovations and improvements, it's like native plant heaven. There are butterflies everywhere. We saw a number of ospreys, so I really encourage people to go and enjoy that beautiful asset. The second thing I wanted to touch on is LEAD, because we've heard about that a number of times already. I will mention it briefly in my presentation, but I also I wanted to thank everyone for their comments on that. Laura and Matsky in our Planning and Development Department has done an amazing job providing updates with Greenprint since its birth 10 years ago. I know that she reported that a number of buildings may have been built to similar LEED standards, but they did not pursue that certification due to cost. So I can follow through on that and see and identify, where those buildings may be. But just from my conversations with different council members and city leaders already, LEED has been brought up a number of times, and certifications as something to aim for. So I do think that will have support. And I agree that Imagine Clearwater would be a great opportunity for those.
Thank you for addressing that right off the bat. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so there we go. So sustainable Clearwater. Those of you that are familiar with Greenprint, I'm very familiar with it now, may recognize the image that's actually from the cover of Greenprint. Just kind of to get in and provide some background context with what I hope to do in the immediate future as a sustainability coordinator. One of my frequent sayings that I go to is you can't manage what you haven't measured, and I would like to add recently. So, it's been 9 years since our initial greenhouse gas inventory, and that leads the whole mission of Greenprint. So Greenprint has a number of strategies and goals, but the overarching goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And specifically, Greenprint sets the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to 25% below their 2007 levels by 2035, which is a mouthful, but essentially it sets that metric. It also says by 2020, we should be at 10% below our 2007 levels. So that time period, 2020, is coming up soon, and I would like to see a second greenhouse gas inventory performed for the city. So one of my projects is to facilitate that happening, whether it's through a partnership with a educational institution, such as the Office of Sustainability at USF, or if it's opening up the conversation of maybe working with another a consultant just to do the greenhouse gas portion, not the overall Greenprint study that was initially done. This will determine a lot of things. It will determine how far the city has come, how far we have to go. In the last 10 years, a lot has changed in city operations, and a lot has changed in the scientific community in the way that we understand greenhouse gases, how they interact with one another, and how we calculate them. So I do think it's important to get those relevant metrics to go forward. I guess I can look down. Wow. Okay. As another priority, it's to update Greenprint. So Greenprint is supposed to be a living document, and it should have frequent updates. Some key things that I would like to do for Greenprint is strengthen commitments, and I do have support with this within the city as a whole. Greenprint is an amazing document, but many of the strategies say the city should consider doing X. And what I'm going to do with Greenprint is say the city will this. So really strengthen some of those initiatives rather than having them be like something to consider, really setting them as tangible goals. Furthering that point, Greenprint is great, it sets a number of goals, but some of those goals are a little lofty and they don't have tangible metrics. So rather than setting the goal of the city will reduce its energy consumption, we will then change that to be the city will reduce its energy consumption by this many kilowatts by this time frame. And so on, and that's just, not just with energy consumption, but on each of the 8 topic areas that Greenprint lays out. I would also like to model what the City of Largo has done in their LEAP documents, where they indicate the status of each of the strategies. So they do a great job of indicating with colors what strategy has been started, what has not been started, and what is no longer a goal, so that Greenprint can be something that we actually know where we're at as residents with these strategies. Further with that, and specifying goals, I would also like to apply timeframes to some of these strategies so that we know when we would like to achieve them by. And finally, because 9 years has come and gone since Greenprint was originally created, there are multiple new strategies that we can consider as a city, and maybe even some new topic areas as to how we can best reduce greenhouse gas emissions beyond the 8 topic areas that are already laid out. All of this, which I'll get into, but all of this will rely on a culture of sustainability being better supported in the city of Clearwater. So I've already had talks with our planning and development departments about suggesting amendments to the comprehensive plan. And essentially, if we tie in Greenprint or sustainability broadly to the comprehensive plan, it better strengthens the Greenprint document, but also the fact that in all of what the city does, the comprehensive plan is what is referred to. So if we have sustainability in there, it'll better strengthen our goals. Staff education, so making sure staff in every department is knowledgeable on sustainable practices, initiatives, what the city is doing, and what they can do in their own homes. Here is where I really hope to utilize the county extension, the Pinellas County extension of UF-IFAS. They have amazing educators that can provide education for our staff, and that may even be just workshops on composting or workshops on energy reduction, or me going in there and debriefing different departments on the strategies that we're trying to achieve, so that even coming from the solid waste department, I think it's vital that even our solid waste workers know what we're trying to do, because they are the ones that are actually in the streets that residents will just say, hey, I want to talk to you about this. And I've actually had that before, where I've been out in a solid waste truck doing a recycling audit, and a resident stopped me wanting to know about how fast they're allowed to go in the Stevenson's Creek behind our house. And she wanted to know about this porta potty that may have been abandoned. And those aren't necessarily things that I can answer right at that point in time, but it is an example that sometimes when you are out in a neighborhood, you will get asked questions that may be a little bit out of your field. And so if I can do my job to educate every staff member so that they at least know where to refer that resident to, we've done a good job. The third thing that I have here is to recreate the Green Clearwater website so that we act as a resource, and that we can see, as a number of our neighboring communities have done, that sustainability is at the forefront of the city's concerns. And I view this as a tool that residents can go to see, one, what the city is doing, but then also use it as a resource for what they can do in their own lives. So making sure that we have different links that they can connect with, and that we partner and advertise that partnership, whether it's with Ocean Allies or the Sierra Club or local nonprofits, so that we can refer residents who are interested and don't know where to go to these groups. Workshops, speakers, and conferences. I am at heart an educator, and that is what I love to do. So whether it's with staff or with residents and businesses, making sure that we also are a tool to our residents, which you'll see is ingrained in a lot of the topic areas that I'm about to get into. I think we can also better utilize public art and our neighborhood spaces to influence the culture of sustainability. Juliana Green, our neighborhoods coordinator, and Chris Hubbard, our cultural affairs coordinator, have done a great job in already working with me, and we have a couple really interesting projects that we're hoping to come about, specifically with storm drain murals and with possibly some plastic art installations that we're exploring. And then this says public-private partnerships, but it could just say public-public partnerships or partnerships, but really utilizing the nonprofit groups that are accessible to us, that are a wealth of information, and making sure that we continue having events and communications with those groups. So I wanted to just discuss some things that are at the forefront of my mind. Greenprint gets into a number of areas, but these are some things that I hope to achieve within the next year or two, or at least get started. So the first you'll see there is the municipal energy policy. So we do have the Honeywell contract that helps with some of our buildings to help with energy efficiency and our HVAC systems. But there are a couple organizations that could take that a step further and really look at our energy usage overall and recommend behavior changes. So one organization that we're starting to talk with has partnered with the Pinellas County School District and done a really successful program there. So that's where we're hoping to further see energy savings, and based on the recommendations of that organization or an organization like them, we can then take their recommendations and put it into policy. So having a municipal energy policy that says, for each building, this is what the city thinks is acceptable for electricity usage and so on. One other thing was the best practices guide for developers. So whether it's with recommending the LEED certifications, which is mentioned in Greenprint already as a building practices, having best green practices guide for developers that are looking to build that just may not know where to go. So having in the permitting process materials like low impact development and how to make rain gardens, green roofs, cool roofs, solar panel roofs, where to go from that, and that this is where the city's values lie. Workshops for residents about, whether it's making them aware of the solar energy and loan fund, or that the possibility of having solar in their own homes, and that kind of ties into that other topic of opportunities for solar. I know the North Greenwood Rec Center was looked at for a possible location for solar panels, and we asked for quotes from companies, and only one company responded back to us, and it was a very high return on investment, about a 17-year return on investment. I will be looking at other opportunities for solar installations, whether it's at the North Greenwood Rec Center, other places in the city, but definitely I think it is a good strategy to say, well, maybe we can set a policy in place for any building that is going to be built that they include solar or a certain percentage of solar. And I think we have, so with where I'm at now in the city manager's office, it's a beautiful scenery where you can look out and you see so many roofs, and there's a lot of potential in those roofs, whether it is green roofs, whether it's just cool roofs with painting them white and having a little bit of thought around there, or it is solar panels as well. So making sure you're utilizing all of our available space and also abating like heat island effects, and that would help then also if we do a green roof policy or incentive program with stormwater runoff. Transportation, so if anyone's met Perry, who oversees our fleet, you'll know he's a quality guy. He is already considering incorporating some hybrid and electric vehicles into the city's fleets, which I think is great. And we can also consider for some of our smaller car purchases, setting a policy in play that makes electric or hybrid vehicles the default. And if a department wants anything other than that type of vehicle, they explain why. Rather than having it the other way around, we're setting a standard of like, this is where we want to go, this is what we think is going to be the cultural norm that we'd like to establish. Prioritizing electric vehicle charging stations to make sure it's accessible to our residents. We did apply for a number of locations with the Duke Energy Park and Plug program, which covers the cost of a electric vehicle charging station until 2022. We were approved for one location, so I would really like to celebrate that when it does happen, and partner with the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy to they do really fun educational programs on electric vehicles where they actually bring electric vehicles out and allow residents to test drive them. So that not only are we having a location, but we're also showing people what is possible and talking to them. A lot of people think electric vehicles are very expensive. Some of them are. If you want a Tesla, yes, absolutely, it's expensive. But if you wanted, a used Nissan Leaf, that's somewhere, depending on where you look, around $8,000. So also making sure that we're bringing these educational events to all areas of Clearwater, not just the places we think that will be inclined to use them. Water resources, I've mentioned low impact development, but really this is where that best practices guide would come into play, and encouraging developers to use bioswales and other things that retain stormwater runoff, but also ensuring that they are incorporated into the city's projects. So our engineering department is already doing a great job of that. And part of my role will also be to publicize their good works. So the city is doing a number of things that are already sustainable. It's just we don't have someone that is putting that in the forefront of the residents' minds. I would really like to do some workshops with residents about, how to install a Florida-friendly landscape, rain gardens, bioswales, and what exactly is a water-wise landscape, why it's good, especially with our water quality and water-wise landscapes. If you use native plants, you're not having to use fertilizer, and then we also see a benefit there, especially with how prevalent red tide should be on everyone's mind from the last year's experience. With waste management, what I really love, and that St. Pete has kind of beat us to the mark, but it's very good for everyone involved, is backyard composting workshops. What I would like to do, and what I hope to do, is do workshops that residents if they attend and they learn how to properly compost, they can leave with a backyard compost tumbler. So yes, there is no facility in Pinellas to accept composting, and that has been a barrier for the shift to compostable ware. But we still have the opportunity for backyard composting and the items that can decompose in that situation. So what I would like about doing the workshops for backyard composting is it ensures that we're not, giving a tumbler out to someone that doesn't know how to use it, and then we have a smelly situation on our hands, and our code compliance is a concern, and everything else. So setting people up for success, making sure that the money the city invests in tumblers is properly used, and just having an educational resource to people. Also with the waste management, ocean-friendly policies, initiatives is a great way to make sure that we are producing less waste. And I know Glenna mentioned it, but I have entered into conversations with our special events department about trying our hand at a couple ocean-friendly events to see how it goes. And I do think that putting some verbiage in the vendor contracts is a great idea. Municipal waste reduction policy would then also govern things like our printing habits, our purchasing habits, and our recycling standards for each building and where we'd like to be as a city. And then one thing that is really exciting that I love that Greenprint already mentions is a community swap event, where we hold an event where we invite the public to either have like a trash to trends or a community swap where they have things that they don't want but that aren't necessarily trash, and they give it to people who do want them. Food production, if I could grow plants on everything in the city, I would be very happy. So one thing, and my background is also in gardening, we are looking for opportunities to expand urban agriculture, which Greenprint does lay out. The director of the CRA is also really excited about this. I think this would be a great opportunity for our downtown, and maybe even we're looking at a couple locations where we could have either a nonprofit or an outside organization come in, have a market garden that we then can connect to the downtown businesses and have a farm-to-table scenario. So one, it's beautifying spaces that were previously unused. It's providing fresh food to people. It's reducing our transportation needs for food. And I think it's just a great thing all around for cities. Another thing I am intending to do and excited about is pollinator patches. So globally, the situation for our pollinators is not great. You can see a number of species are in decline, and it's not only bad for anyone that loves bees, butterflies, beetles, moths, and so on, it's also bad for the human species. About a third of all the food that we eat is estimated to have come from a pollinator doing their work. So ensuring that we have successful urban agriculture also falls down to making sure that we sustain our pollinator species. Pollinator patches are great because they also add to neighborhood and city beautification. So they're an educational opportunity. We do small pollinator patches around downtown, around the neighborhoods. We can use them with native plants to educate our residents. And then Greenprint also lays out a task force, so an urban agriculture task force. And I have a number of organizations that I would really like to partner with that to best identify areas for urban agriculture and where we can go. Green businesses and jobs. Greenprint does lay out a green guide and a green business database. So essentially the green guide would identify to tourists who are visiting the Clearwater area. It'd essentially be a pamphlet, whether it's a physical copy or online. Welcome to Clearwater. Here are all the places that you can visit that are doing something green. It would really support us as a developing eco-tourist destination, which is huge for ensuring that our tourism base stays as prevalent as it is. And then we can also include a green business database to our website where we list, the number of jobs that are at a green business, the number of businesses, and it really puts us on a map for larger businesses that are looking for a home base. Green cities are something that they're looking for, and so we want to make sure that Clearwater is one of those cities. And then partnerships, you'll see the We Are Ocean Friendly Ocean Allies certification here. Rather than recreating our own definition for what a green business is, we may be able to just use the existing certification or definition by a nonprofit like Ocean Allies. And Ocean Allies, while it's primarily about single-use plastics, it also requires a number of other conservational requirements. So like energy conservation, water conservation practices, total friendly lighting, those are all required in the Ocean Ally certificate. So I think it may be just a good thing to already partner with and advertise in the city. And then finally, just some new ideas that I am hoping to incorporate into Greenprint or explore further. The top is an environmental preferential purchasing policy. So right now, when you get quotes from a company, you're kind of comparing costs and a few other details. I would like to put the environmental either effect of that product or of that company into that equation, so that items that are better for the environment are given some kind of ranking in our purchasing. The state of California, as a number of other states, have also done a good job and set in their sustainability plans the promotion of plant-rich diets. So agriculture is a huge contributor to our greenhouse gas emissions, not only in the city of Clearwater and not specifically, but as a world, or as a globe, specifically with methane. So if we also explore promoting and educating around plant-rich diets, that is one possibility that we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then there are other things like a green revolving fund, where when we do a green initiative and we do experience a cost savings, as many of them have, that cost savings then goes to another green initiative, and hopefully it will spiral to allow for further projects. And you will see that I've also mentioned LEED for Cities here. It's been something that has been mentioned to me by a number of people, and exploring that certification not just for buildings, but for entire communities. And with that, I will open it for any questions.
Why, yes. I always have a question or two. One of the things I didn't see you cover, and I wonder if it hits your desk, is the public transportation involvement in the sustainability initiative. For example, I don't think a ferry going across to the beach over there is hardly sustainable nor environmentally friendly compared to what other forms of transportation that we see all over the world. Dubai being one of the leaders, unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe. And I'm just kind of wondering, what in your plan do you have for public transportation?
So I think transportation is, so it's the second largest contributor to greenhouse gases for the city, but it's also one of the hardest things coming from the most population dense county in the state. Transportation is a huge issue. So I think if we can better support what the PTSA is doing, we can absolutely, and I have some notes on actually transportation here. Yeah, supporting the PSTA and Ford Pinellas in their initiatives. There are some things that we can do in Greenprint to encourage residents to drive less. I don't know if those have been successful, but then we also have the Complete Streets policy that we're going forward with.
Did you see that, did you ever hear about that SkyTran?
Yes.
That made a presentation
Beach
here,
train.
it seems like ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
And have you talked to them?
I haven't. I did talk to a council member today that is also very interested in it, and so they're in the same building. I have set an, actually just today, a meeting to discuss the beach tran with them and where they're at with it. I do think, although I'm very limited on my information about that, I do think it would be an amazing initiative. It does sound like all around it could be something that falls under the realm of sustainability by being solar powered and by reducing the congestion to and from the beach. I do think it's a good opportunity, but I have to learn more about it.
And I think to your point, you because the ferry takes cars off of the road, but what's the net difference, right? If you're getting in that boat,
right.
How many, what's the so is it a sustainable, like is it a net zero, or what is the,
right.
What is the
and other factors
right.
as well, like it doesn't work well in emergencies and things like that,
Sure.
Or a beach tran, obviously going right to the hospital, as they had talked about back then, is great in my opinion. If you get hurt on the beach and it's spring break and you need to go somewhere, the ferry ain't gonna get you there.
Yeah, I do think that one thing that we can do is just also encourage like alternative modes of transportation. It's just for some individuals in Clearwater, we do have a largely retired population that may be accessible and it may not be. So making sure that we're promoting to a number of people and trying to do something that's feasible for them in a safe way.
That's definitely not something I have on my radar every time we have a meeting. I wonder what's going on with that. So I would really like to see somebody like you take the initiative further and get them moving on this. There's no reason that Clearwater can't be a leader in this. We have one of the ideal situations where we have 3 cities, big cities, real close to each other, where a very small project could affect a very large number of people. And that's why I think it's very important.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a great opportunity. It would further, it would be an amazing thing to have at the beach. It's just, there's a lot of details that go into that, and I am planning on exploring it.
You have any other?
That's good. That's really what I wanted to hit on today.
I have,
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
good
Go
number
right-
of
Please
things.
go right ahead.
The scope of work that you have before you is pretty,
Pretty awesome,
yeah,
that's a
pretty
lot.
awesome is a good word for it. So I commend you for trying to, get your arms around it, and, the way you've gone through things today clearly indicates that you're well on your way.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of items that I don't think was touched upon. I may have mentioned in some of our prior meetings here. I owned a civil engineering landscape architecture firm and had a number of lead professionals on my staff. And we were dealing more with the site side of things, the stormwater and others. And parking lots, to me, are an opportunity for solar over the lots, particularly on the beach. I mean, people in Florida go into a parking lot. What's the first thing? You don't look always for the first open space. You look whether there's a shaded space to put your car.
That's true, that's true, that's right.
And I think a way to cover the costs for a solar canopied parking lot is to charge a premium for that lot. And I think you would actually find people paying a little bit more for parking in that shaded lot. They may not have to be the people who are, supporting green initiatives, but, if you come back to your car and it's, 10 or 15 degrees cooler, it's a
100
benefit,
degrees.
particularly coming back from the beach with a sunburn.
Charge
But
your
there
own
are
bike.
a number of cities that have done this successfully, and there have been some materials circulated to our board related to that, but I know we can get them to Sarah and to you perhaps as well. But, there are some small lots on the beach. The other thing that does, it's something that's highly visible. And that's what you need. A lot of these other things that you do, it's for the people who know. You will know, we may know when you tell us about it, but I think the green industry needs things that people can see or touch that, really give them a sense that, this is eco-friendly, or this is a community that's pursuing, green things and concerned about the environment. So the solar parking, I think, is one. One of my other water resource related issues is the septic systems that we have in Clearwater. And there's no program that I've been aware of for monitoring those or requiring inspections over a period of time. And that we do have nitrogen sensitive waters here. That's the pollutant that basically phosphorus is absorbed in the soil. We don't have phosphorus, freshwater. We'd have some freshwater resources here with our streams, but it's the coastal waters. And a way to get that nitrogen out is to send it to the treatment plant where it's dealt with in a better way than the septic systems. And if there's a way we can have such a program, I'm familiar with other nitrogen-sensitive communities where I came from in New England, that it's a requirement to have your septic system monitored every 3 years by a local code. What else did I have? Related to that, today I actually had a conversation with a woman who has a septic system. She has a Clearwater address. She's in unincorporated Clearwater, so she can't connect. But the person across the street or down the street from her, I guess, got the boundary changed, and now they connected to get off of their system. One other item that I would encourage is, kind of transportation related, is somehow a safe bike route through Clearwater Beach. There really isn't one.
Very true.
And, we've invested so much in beach walk, and I use the beach walk if I'm riding my bike through, and it's dangerous both for me and pedestrians, because people aren't really, they're on the walk, they're not aware of cyclists, and try to go through the rotary if you're a cyclist, or past the pirate ship and the other boats. You can't. The sidewalk narrows down so much. And it's, not just that, but the traffic. But there are so many cyclists that, come through, and it is a safety issue. But you're not fully part of, what I would consider green print, but one to put on the list somehow. But I had a question for you. Out of, all the scope that you've outlined and the initiatives that you'll be working on, what are your top 1 or 2 priorities at this point in time?
Top priorities. So right now, my top priorities are the 2 things that I mentioned in the beginning, which is the greenhouse gas inventory and updating green print. Beyond that, it would be whatever leverage points we have that will significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which would be our energy sector and our transportation sector. So I do need to investigate that more. So energy is the largest contributor to greenhouse gases in the city, and then transportation is the second. From a passion standpoint, and I do think that our food systems and urban agriculture are probably less understood in terms of their greenhouse gas emissions. I think that is a huge leverage point. But to put Clearwater on the map, it has the intersection of social justice, environmental justice, and it beautifies spaces. So those 3 are my main priorities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep it up.
Good job, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Ashley, did you have any comment? I had a couple of things I wrote down while you were going through and presenting, and a couple other things I hope I can remember and ask them all. Now, as far as the greenhouse gas emissions and changing some of those standards, and it may be too soon to even know what the answer is, but where would we be in terms of strategy for 100%, like a net zero for the city after doing this? And is that something that we're trying to update toward, or just kind of keep it at these 2011 kind of numbers? And, and like I said, you are new, and there are some changes already, but I don't know if that's something that's been talked about or...
It hasn't, but I do think it's great to put on everyone's radar. So if we can do this second baseline greenhouse gas inventory, see where we're at, maybe we do need to go beyond what the initial goals were.
Yeah, because I'm really curious to find out what that is, because we may have surpassed where we want to be right now. We may not, but yeah, it may be the results could be very surprising, but we just have no idea at this point. And yeah, I think also, like you had mentioned, the changes in technology, I think also make it so a number of those accomplishments can be done sooner, or maybe revisited and accomplished that were kind of considered not available at the time. And then yeah, I think the Green website is a great resource because, again, like, there's a lot out there already that we have available here and there. I've said this before in the past, and there's just no one place to go as a resident to say, here's all of these practices, here's bike trails, here's all the different places, the parks, everything else. And then you had mentioned energy consumption, but like John's saying, I think we should also look at it as a creation, not just what we consume, but how much energy we create as a city. And if it's looking at rooftops or street tops or parking lot tops, and how we can analyze and how much that's bringing back or putting back into the grid, or how much we're not taking from that. I think we should not just, again, look at it from an aspect of how much energy are we consuming, but how much are we producing as well. And you mentioned best practices for development, but also with that, I wonder if there are ways that there are tax credits or there's other incentives for some of these programs to kind of convince, not just, sometimes that takes the additional convincing, and so we can promote some more of those practices. I think there are some communities that are giving credits for putting in solar or doing other things, but I wonder if there are even other areas where we can look at helping, like you said, for different roof types or whatever it may be for builders and with fleet vehicles, this has been brought up in the past. Gas vehicles on the beach. We've talked about electric vehicles throughout the city and other departments, but is there any talk about putting different types of vehicles that aren't run on gas on the beach?
Not that I'm aware of. It hasn't been brought to my attention yet, but I think it's worthy of exploring further.
Yeah, and I think
Weren't we supposed to have a driverless car on Clearwater Beach starting like in October, September?
Oh, okay.
That's going to run like a mile loop?
Oh,
On the
yes, I
beach?
read that, yes, I did read that, yes, you're right, yeah.
Like an autonomous vehicle?
Yes, yes.
But again, I think that's another great opportunity if we're looking for things that will be in the public's face in terms of what the city's doing. The beach has 7 million people that come there every year, right? Like how many? You don't have a better opportunity. So maybe looking into ways to promote some of the things the city are doing in that way, and changing from gas to electric or other types of vehicles on the beach. And then also you mentioned electric charging stations. I think there are some already in the city. That would maybe, I guess, be something to promote on the Green website as well. But also, is this something that we can look into with new construction or renovations to existing places, adding electric vehicle charging stations to libraries or city hall or whatever facilities we're moving forward?
Absolutely. That and a number of other things, especially, in different buildings that come about. Even just having a bike rack to encourage people to use bikes is like something that's very small, but sometimes isn't even considered. And so there are a number of items.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and you're working with the art department, the art, in Dunedin, they have all those different bike racks that are built by artists, and that's a great opportunity to, again, showcase for the public to see the things that are being done.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And then I was going to say with backyard composting, rain barrels, is that something that people still do? Or
I meant to mention that there is a wealth of topics in this. I meant to mention it on the workshops for the water-wise landscaping. The city of Oldsmar, so I live in Oldsmar, the city of Oldsmar partnered with IFAS to do a rainwater harvesting workshop, and people who attended got to leave with their own rain barrels. There's something that we could easily do. It's fun for everyone. So encouraging in our own residents, the concept of rain barrels and how to use them.
I know in the past that was one of the most popular IFAS programs. They had a waiting list for attendees for those in the past. So.
And it's another opportunity for public art because they also show you how you can paint your own.
Yeah. And then for food production, urban agriculture, is that looking at just how businesses, from that aspect, people having their own agriculture, like hydroponic farms at home, or is this looking at as a homeowner being able to create a garden in your right-of-way, or what are you kind of looking at for urban agriculture?
Everyone.
Okay.
Everyone. So yes, specifically with the cities, what are the properties that we have that we don't intend to build on in the next 10 years, maybe the opportunities there? How restaurants, where are the opportunities on their own property to grow food so that it's directly plugged into their menu? For residents, where on their own property can they grow their own food? Encouraging, so acting as an educational resource, but also leadership, and having, if what we'd like to do with the CRA actually comes through, we may have a resource, a home base where people can come to learn about urban agriculture or how to grow. In Pinellas County, we're so connected with where our food comes from, because generally it comes from either an outside county, an outside state, or an outside country. And so really plugging back into that as a resource, but also the rich cultural knowledge and heritage that comes about with growing your own food, I think is really important.
Yeah, it's amazing for an area that 50 years ago was a lot of agriculture. We are very far from that now. So I'm curious too, along that line, citrus or other edible fruit trees, is that something to consider planting in right-of-ways rather than crepe myrtles, or what is there?
You've noticed, I've noticed, yeah, there's
Yeah.
crepe myrtles everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful. So you'll see at the bottom here, I do have the concept of an edible landscaping pilot program. So one thing that I love and that I do with my own backyard is a food forest. So really densely planting different fruit trees, either if native plants that sustain pollinator populations, edible landscaping, or even better, they're native and they have an edible component. But trying our hand at that to show that landscaping can be beautiful but also productive.
Okay, so there is some discussion about it, because I think people have, I've known people that as soon as they move into a house, they remove a fruit tree because they don't want the rats running around. And so I don't know if there were deterrents to planting rather than like medjool date palms or other types of trees that we're used to seeing, and just, plant an orange tree, or, just something else that's a little bit more useful, still provides shade and still does those things. But if there is I don't know, again, like I said, I don't know what the discussion is against doing that, and if it may be kind of the rodent aspect or whatever else. So
I think it depends on the tree.
Yeah, certainly.
And it depends on the plant, and you can be selective with that. There are a number of cities that have, are attempting to do this now and have done it already in the past. The city of Atlanta just, approved a large number of acres to a food forestry project. So we can also look to what they're doing and how they go about doing it.
So this is something that is happening in other cities across the country.
Yes, I've seen specifically with the city of Atlanta, and I don't know necessarily about food forestry. I know there is, I believe, a small food forest in actually Safety Harbor that I just became aware of. But if you look at St. Pete, they also have a booming urban agriculture program.
So you would promote, education programs for homeowners to try to create their own?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also, I guess this is a little bit along what John was saying with biking, a sidewalk program. I know the city has money available to do sidewalks here and there. Is there just, I guess, a discussion or looking into sidewalks and where there may be, I think we look at how many we have in terms of mileage. We have this many miles of sidewalk, but how many miles of unconnected sidewalk do we have? And maybe filling in those gaps and looking at some really easy wins if there's 1,500 feet here that aren't there that should be, or whatever it may be, that completing a number of sidewalks, because I think there's a lot of benefit to that. And then along those same lines, there may be some sidewalk or other paths that the city, that we don't know about. Like, I know the city just created the Druid Trail, and there may be some other pathways that are already out there, but it's just not, they haven't been mapped yet. And so that might be another way to show, again, with a bike or pedestrian friendly map. Like, hey, look, here's a way you can get from here to here, and you don't have to go on any major streets because there's all these nice sidewalks to use.
I don't know about the sidewalks that are planning and development. It may be a conversation that they're having that I'm just not aware of.
Sure.
But I do really like what the city of Largo has done with an interactive sustainability map. So you can have bike trails, you can have walking trails, you can have, here are the electric vehicle charging stations, here are the storm drain murals, here are the other things that are interactive and fun, but
yeah, and I think to your point, it may be something to look at, a complete street program and trying that on the beach or something, where you have an expectation that there's a bicyclist in this lane, or
Definitely.
yeah. I know that there's a lot of different modes of transportation on the beach, and they're all vying for that space. So I'm sure there's a lot of challenge to do that, but that may be an area, again, because of the visitors, it will have the biggest impact and kind of magnify some of the other efforts that the city is doing. And then the only other thing I was going to say was about the septic to sewer program, John. I believe that's why that person is still unincorporated, because they don't want to pay to hook up to the city sewer, because if they do annex into the city, they would have to sign up and be on the sewer, but because they're in the county still,
this individual indicated they would like to tie into the sewer, but because they're in the unincorporated portion, they were included from tying in.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure what the rules are there.
Yeah, they'd probably have to be annexed, and even if there's, I know there's some enclave issues with some of that they would still be considered unincorporated, but they would have access to the sewer and be tied onto that. I know there are some people that have had that same instance, but that's, to that point, I don't know that there are any septic tanks in the actual city, because if you're in the actual city, you have to be on a sewer line. So again, it may be something that we have to look into, and we would, I guess, I think to look at that, and what I've said in the past is, who doesn't pay for sanitary, right, on your water bill? But then also, who doesn't pay for sanitary and they're also incorporated in the city, and that may be a much smaller number.
So just to address, excuse me, that issue, there are a few neighborhoods that still are on sanitary. Public Utilities has a very comprehensive map of those areas. They had a lot of projects that were ranked as to which ones they're going to move through and do a septic to sanitary system, but right now their focus is dealing with the water treatment plants and making sure we don't have some of those overflows that we've had in the past when we have the big rains and things like that. So right now they're working on protecting that aspect of it, because that is right now the bigger environmental danger than the individual septic tanks.
The CSOs.
Yeah, and so they're working on making sure our the laterals that go from your house to the actual sanitary line, making sure those are in good shape, because that's another place that you have those sanitary sewer overflows is in those. And so that's really the focus of their program right now, is looking at those things. So we still have all of those neighborhoods are still on the map. It's still on the CIP list of, we're going to go into these neighborhoods and convert those areas over, but it's just not the current focus where the budget is right now. It's looking at the greatest need and dealing with that problem.
This would be, to have requirement for pumping of the tank or the system, on a regular basis to make sure that it's operating properly.
Mm-hmm.
And those areas are unincorporated areas that they identified, or are those areas within the city?
It's a patchwork generally.
Yeah.
Like, things have annexed in kind of a weird pattern.
Yeah.
And so most of those areas are partially unincorporated Pinellas County and city, and it's a patchwork area.
Okay. Thank you for addressing that. I think that was everything. Thank you, Sheridan. If there are any comments or questions from the audience, please come forward, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Michael Hinkle again, and first I want to thank you, Sheridan. I think you've taken your position and run with it. That was a wonderful presentation, and I'd like to congratulate you, and I think Clearwater's blessed to have someone dedicated like Sheridan. So 2 things I'd like to ask from this board and from you is the bees. So in order to have a sustainable food forest, whether it's gardening or the trees, we have to have the bees and protect them. Now, stop me if I'm wrong, correct me, but if somebody calls, I have a beehive, typically it's destroyed. If we're lucky enough, it gets moved to some savior in the Bay Area. So I don't know if there is, any protection for the bees, but we need safe havens and we need some rules in place to take care of that. And then I'd just like to second that, we do need like a CO2 census, that greenhouse 2020, if that was your goal for next year, but I'm for that, and I'd like to encourage us to get that done. And with the universities, which were mentioned, I know St. Pete College has a sustainability management program. When it comes to doing things like this, it's all about like how much does it cost sometimes. So I feel like the resources might be out there if we enlist. So there's so much more. That was a great presentation, but I'll stop right there. So,
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree. And to your point about bees, I know I've had to have an apiarist over to remove them. I think that's a balance because you want the bees, but there's also the concern that they can become Africanized and killer bees, and then there's a problem with that as well. And that's why I was told to have my hive removed, but it hadn't been, and it was removed and I guess taken to Lakeland, so they had survived. But I understand that there are, I guess, different ways to remove them. Again, yeah, thank you, Sheridan, for your report. Are there any other comments from the audience? Please come forward, speak, state your name, and you'll have 3
So
minutes.
Brian Beckman again. Just one quick comment to what you brought up, Jared, on electric vehicles being on the beach. If people haven't been down to Maher Chevrolet, they have all of their electric vehicles, not just their cars, talking about what their salespeople drive around in. They're all electric, and they have solar panels that power them on top. So that's something, it's an idea they put into practice. Echo the comments here that were made earlier by Mike. Really excited about Sheridan being in her role and bringing these kind of things together here, and hopefully making Greenprint real, moving from, like I think she was saying, from could or should to that we will do different things. One of the things that I would also strongly suggest, so in my volunteer work with Suncoast Sierra, I spend a lot of my time helping nonprofits, recent examples with the St. Pete YMCA at Heather Gill, of donating money with Sierra to about $3,000 or $3,500 to save them $10,000 a year in their lighting. So they get payback on those bulbs in about 4 months, saving them about 10% on their electricity bill. That is a common low-hanging fruit for most of the buildings. So like in this library here, most of the lights in this building are fluorescent and could be cut in at least half from an energy consumption standpoint. And so I realize this building might be renovated as part of what's going to be done for Imagine Clearwater, but there are many other buildings that I've been through, the Greenwood Park Recreation Center, just walked through a couple of your parking garages, all of those light bulbs, same situation over and over again. And so if you apply those to the buildings, in theory at least, you could save 10% of your electricity costs just by changing out your lighting. So I know we've talked a little bit about that already, Sheridan, but that is a big opportunity for most cities, including Clearwater. Thanks.
Thank you. So to that point, that is something that the city's looking at, Sheridan, as part of.
So Brian has been incredibly resourceful on a number of things, but yes, and we've even discussed like an LED conversion pilot program where we take one building and we show here are the steps where we can, go through it, how it can be strategic, and then also making sure that we do capture the metrics there to show the savings.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience?
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Hearing none, we'll move on to our next item, old business. Anyone have any?
No?
I can report on an item I brought up at the last meeting was related to the seagrass beds off of Coachman Park. And I did meet with Michael Delk and talk to him about it as in conjunction with some other issues. He referred me to speak to Ed Chesney, who I guess manages the marina and those resources for the city. And Ed referred me back to Sarah, who has been very helpful in identifying, some of the information that's available through the Tampa Bay Estuary Program atlases, and we're working towards, further investigation and trying to get a detailed survey of the current condition of the beds to determine, has the mooring of boats during events or, other traffic there affected, is it really affecting and impacting those seagrass beds? And is it, really the cause of the decline? And that was a recommendation by Ed Chesney that we try to get some up-to-date information. So we'll see where it goes, but thank you, Sarah, for pursuing that.
Yeah, I'll say, to that point, there's a lot going on in that area to affect the seagrass bed, so, yeah. All right, anyone else have any other? All right, we'll move on to the next item, the director's report.
So there was something brought up at the last meeting, a smoking ban on beaches, and I talked to Laura Mahoney, who's our attorney, to give me some more information about that. So the bill, it died, the bill died. But the reason it did is because in 2003, there's a lot of indoor smoking that was banned, and the legislature at that time preempted the local government's right to regulate smoking. So the regulation of smoking is wholly preserved by the state. So in order for, it would not be possible for a local government to ban smoking on beaches. It would need to come from the state in order to do that.
I think this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of this meeting in terms of enforcement of littering laws that are already on the
That's
books.
exactly what I was talking about.
I think a couple of $500 fines for throwing a cigarette butt, and you won't throw those anymore.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's a good idea.
yeah.
And that's what we never see is enforcement. We never see it.
No, you don't, no.
It would be hard to, you know.
And I think we brought that up too, again, putting that on one of the signs, driving down to the beach,
We
something
did, we
about
talked
not
about
littering.
that. We
Yeah,
did, yes, we
there's the
did.
one about not drinking on the beach, but maybe we
Right.
can have it change out when it's not that, have it, have two different messages or something like that to remind people, and just seeing that. I don't know if that really deters people from drinking on the beach, seeing that sign before they get there, but even still, if we put it out there and have some signage and just promote the idea to not throw trash when you're out there on the beach.
I think we should have a sign saying we don't want you to smoke on the beach.
Yeah.
A voluntary one, just to promote it. This is.
Yeah, I don't know that the city can put something like that out there because, again, the preemption can't.
It's on a volunteer basis.
I don't
that-
think we
Please be
could.
considerate when smoking.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any topic suggestions for the next meeting?
Well, the only thing, I think Sheridan brought it up is, we were talking about what we were going to incorporate in special events to reduce trash and add recycling and eliminate single-use containers. I would like to see, I know Chris Cook we had mentioned in a prior meeting, maybe talking to that effect. And I don't know if we could get his opinion on things or have him work with Sheridan and come up with some kind of plan or some list of vendors or that sort of thing.
Perhaps presentation related to the planning related to bicycle routes in the city and other bike trails. There's some gaps or connections that could be made here and there.
I'm not sure that that's in the purview of this board. I think bicycle routes generally are under the umbrella of the Parks and Rec Board. So I'm not sure that one is possible.
I would love to see something on solar. I think it should be so easy, and it seems so complicated to me.
I know we've had Alan Brand speak to us before. He does a lot of presentations about solar, and he's presented about solar in the past. Is there something specific about, is there something specific about solar that you would want to have presented, or?
Well, just that we don't seem to do it.
Yeah, okay.
And why? What is the problem? Is it that difficult?
So is there someone at the city that can talk to us about opportunities or how they're exploring or not?
I will look into that.
Okay.
I'm not sure there is or not.
Okay.
I'll look into that.
I guess whoever was in charge of getting solar for the North Greenwood complex or trying to do that and kind of figuring out,
Mr. Beckman, I think, has something to offer.
Just to add that, I guess, kind of second. Sure, Brian Beckman again.
is it would be great if someone could come back and give an update on what they've learned through that experience. I'm curious myself, because I know it's the first opportunity for the city and a great opportunity to learn for everybody, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, so maybe we can direct our solar presentation toward that kind of aspect and trying to, move forward. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Perhaps
Thank
that,
you, Ashley.
and if you had green roofs, are there opportunities for the city to do green roofs?
Yeah,
It's all,
So look at all the
interrelated,
cell
yeah.
phone towers that are up on all these buildings, they've taken advantage of it. It seems like we could put solar on these big, tall buildings as well.
Yeah.
Where it's just a flat area that could be explored, so.
Yeah, maybe there's other opportunities that have been identified to, yeah. All right, and for next, I was gonna say for myself, I wanted to possibly for our next meeting bring up the I guess expanding the purpose of the EAB, looking at offering recommendations or potentially increase the board's authority. Might be looking at meeting more frequently than we do now or other things like that, but thought that might be something to maybe discuss at our next meeting and maybe think about that. I don't know if that's okay to bring up, or is that something to?
If you guys want that, that's something that's gonna be your discussion, so if it's
Okay.
something you guys
Is
want to
this something
discuss,
that we talk about
then
now
that's-
to bring up for next meeting, or do I bring that up?
No, just if you guys wanna discuss it, then let me know, then.
Okay. So if that's something we want to discuss for next meeting.
would it be possible to at least get an outline of some of the questions that we might pose so that we could give it some thought in advance?
So,
Jared would put something together to transmit to you?
Sure.
just things to keep in mind, and so this will be in the record for your notes for next time. So it was many years ago, probably close to 10 years ago. I think almost all of the boards went to meeting quarterly, and it was a financial decision. They used to have 3 board reporters, now we only have 1. And so there's a lot of extra work behind the scenes that goes into managing the boards, and so it was a financial decision to do that. So then also looking at changing additional meetings, you have to make sure that the meeting space is available to accommodate that. We're using council chambers, so probably that's okay, but that's something else to look at. So this board was created through an ordinance, so it would require changing an ordinance. So your actual responsibility was reviewing stormwater projects, and that has kind of morphed into reviewing city projects, is what the purview of the board was. So now you're getting into more of the sustainability stuff, which right now they've let you continue on with it, but that's outside of what the board's responsibility is. So to change either the frequency of the meetings and/or the purpose and authority you have, you will need to make a motion to recommend specific changes to the city manager and the city council, is how you'll have to do that. So that motion can be made at the next meeting. If you guys want to think about things, you can email me language and I can put it together for you to review it, prior to the meeting, so you can discuss it at the meeting.
Yeah, I just think it's been brought up, I think, for a while in terms of some of the infrequency of the meeting and some of the challenges we've had to accomplish things. And so I just wanted to give us the opportunity, again, because we meet so infrequently, or, that we meet at that time and, we can discuss, kind of more of that, more of this at that time. And I will say, I know we say this at the beginning of the meeting, but we do say the objective of the board is to provide citizen insight to city council on environmental activities within and affecting the city. So I think a lot of the sustainability efforts do affect the environmental aspects within and the city. So again, I think because of having this new position and some of the other things, it kind of, again, just gives us the opportunity to kind of look at what we're doing. And I think when say, we're fine with this, or if we want to move forward with some changes, we can do that. And we'll all have a little bit more time to think about it and discuss it at that time.
We may need an update as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, certainly.
But, you mentioned what our core mission is related to stormwater. And I understand that the city has a stormwater fund and it would be helpful to understand, how that fund is being spent and what is the budget and what is the plan. And that might be, if that's really our core
Right.
area that we're supposed to be evaluating, I think we should understand it better and to be able to provide the advice until we get an updated mission.
Certainly.
That might be a good time.
Please step forward. And
Kathleen Beckman. I have, I wanted to agree with Mr. Wright about the trash and litter, and I would suggest maybe for the next meeting, if you could have a report about how many trash or littering fines have been levied in the last 5 years, how much those fines are, and maybe a presentation by a police officer,
Thanks.
informing us of what goes on, particularly at the beach, and are there maybe junior officers that could enforce trash? And, I'm out there in those beach cleanups, and I mean, it's nothing but cigarette butt after cigarette butt on top of other things. But, is it really feasible? And we don't do recycling because people aren't taking care of their trash properly down there. And so if there could be a junior officer that could write a $25 citation, and they're out there, particularly on the weekends or spring break, I think that would send a message. So I have no idea if that's feasible, but it would be really good to have that information, especially for the last 5 years. So if we can see it's been pretty steady, and, the number of people that visit our beach are going up, and there's some kind of...
So I can't take an agenda recommendation
From me?
from you. So, Mark?
I like that idea.
You want an agenda recommendation?
Just kind of expanding on my point, I think it's a great, it's the information I want to know.
What she said.
And I also had written down from some previous notes way back in 2017 as I was trying to reorganize myself here from the flag dump earlier. I had some notes about cleaning up trash on these spoil islands, and I wanted to see who was responsible for that. And I know Sharon had talked about I think it was her that talked about the adopt programs. Maybe it was Girl 4. But I don't think we ever talked about that,
The
did
city
we?
owns one spoil island. We own I-25, which is directly south of the causeway. And we have a cleanup on there that I go out there with the Audubon Society. And we go out there usually twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. And we just remove the monofilament, but the public is not allowed out on that island. It's posted. And because it is a bird nesting island, the Audubon kind of manages it. And so I go out there with them and we remove the monofilament. The other islands in the intercoastal, those are all owned and managed by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And that's who manages those islands.
Okay, that was the question I didn't have answered, I think, in my notes, and I probably should go back and note that then. So that would be the place to contact regarding cleanup efforts and whatnot then.
Yep.
I found out from a member of my neighborhood association. She's a kayaker, an avid kayaker, and she goes out with a kayak group, and they clean a lot of those spoil islands. I guess if they have a different cleanup effort, but I don't know if it's anything more than who else aside from a volunteer group is going out there and doing that. So, all right. So any other board? Okay. I wanted to bring up, I think we had some, and we've heard, about Imagine Clearwater a lot today, and from other people, and I don't know, I think we've asked about having Imagine Clearwater presentation, and so I don't want it to be like we have not, or have not tried to. We just are too early in the process to have a presentation of, there haven't been any environmental impact studies done yet, is my understanding. Can you?
Yeah, so, talking to the project managers and everybody who's involved with it, they really are waiting until decisions have been made, like the council has decided that this is the direction they want to move. And so at that point, they can look at the design and looking at those environmental studies to minimize impacts and things like that. But without knowing the desire of the council, they can't, you need to have the concept idea before they can get down to the nitty-gritty and make the decisions on how to minimize impacts. And so once the decisions have been made, then we will be able to look at the different stormwater aspects and the different interactions with the waterfront, and to be able to look at those once we can minimize those impacts once the decision's been made.
And my understanding is there will be a vote tomorrow night at City Council about a number, or to move forward on a number of things. So if anybody is interested in watching tonight, they can attend the City Council meeting and talk about Imagine Clearwater at that time. I don't have any other items. If anybody else has anything else. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Hey, I second that.